Delta food and the arts. Tune into Flows, streaming live on Facebook and YouTube at KXVS Radio.
Hi everyone, this is Dr. Julie Damron, local veterinarian for over 20 years. I am so excited about my new radio show, Tales and Tips, on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, Voice of Stockton, and KXVS Radio. I will discuss relevant issues affecting animals and pet owners today, how to avoid common problems, and how to extend the quality of life for your cherished companions. As a community advocate, I will also discuss important social issues that affect our city. I plan to showcase organizations and heroes who are doing amazing things to help others. Remember to tune in every Tuesday morning at 10, starting soon.
KXVS on 92.1 coming soon. KXVS.
This program does not reflect the views of KXVS management or KXVS, the Voice of Stockton.
Good morning, Stocktonians, and welcome to another episode of Tales and Tips. I'm honored to have with me fellow Rotarian Adam Cheshire, and he's here to talk to us today about the Stockton Shelter of the Homeless. He's the current CEO. Welcome, Adam. I'm thrilled to have you here today. And let's talk about the Stockton Shelter for the Homeless and the organization and what its mission is, what they do.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Julie. It's always nice to hang out with you. We get a chance to do it a lot, so thanks. Stockton Shelter for the Homeless is the largest emergency shelter in San Joaquin County. It's one of the largest emergency shelters anywhere. We are going to house somewhere between 350 and 400 people each and every night.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
It is. It is. That's what makes us such a huge shelter, because our capacity is very, very large compared to just about any other shelter. So it's kind of in my opinion, it's a great thing for the community, because we do need places it's needed, absolutely. And we have other shelters here too, and we partner very closely with them. But in terms of our operation, it's many hundreds, and we don't focus on a particular population. We just provide emergency shelter for everyone. That is our mission. Men, women, children, all ages, just anybody who comes to us for help, we provide that help.
And the other thing that's unique is something you just touched on, that it's all ages, because a lot of other facilities don't allow housing for teenagers, and especially teenage boys. So that's a big deal that you do offer that. And it's more than just shelter, though. You offer food and clothing?
Absolutely, yeah. Because of the number of people we serve, our budget is stretched pretty thin, and so we're talking about hundreds of beds per night that are filled, and then we're over that capacity each night. So we do have mats on the floor to try to get as many people in and sheltered as possible each night. So in terms of our other services, we try to have related services that very much complement shelter, but at the same time, we need to stay focused on that emergency shelter, and especially our resources tend to be focused on our most vulnerable population, which is our kids. We're going to have something between 80 and 100 kids on any given night. Last night it was 93.
That's a lot of kids.
A lot, yeah, and their families. So it's going to be their moms or their dads or any combination thereof, and so just within our family shelter alone, we're going to have 150 or 200 folks, including about half children, depending on the night.
Where will the kids stay? I know when I took a tour with you, you showed me like a big dormitory room where you have some of the rollout beds will go as well. Where are the kids staying?
Well, so they're going to be in the family shelter, and so depending on what the situation is when they get there and what our capacity is at that moment, they're either going to stay in a family room. So there are 4 beds in each family room. We have 26 separate family rooms.
Awesome.
And so their mom or dad are going to get a key to that door. They're going to have a place to put their stuff and live full time while we help them get back on their feet. Usually when a family comes to the shelter, or a single woman, because we do house the single women in our family shelter as well, we are not going to have a family room open and available for them, and so that means they're going to be staying in our multipurpose room. Our multipurpose room, we do a lot of things in that room. We're going to have a Christmas party towards the end of this month for our families, and Santa's going to come. It's going to be great.
Awesome.
And we do all kinds of other stuff like that in that room. And then at night we put mats on the floor. And so, hopefully we don't have too many folks in there on any given night, but it can get pretty crowded in there when it's raining outside and it's been so cold recently. We really do see a big uptick in our census during this time of year, and we've seen just more families and more single women coming in.
Wow.
I think as the situation out on the street gets tougher and it gets more crowded, as I think we've all seen in Stockton and throughout California, we do see more single women and families, these sort of what you would call more vulnerable populations, seeking shelter with us and other organizations, as opposed to trying to tough it out on the street.
And I'm glad you also highlighted that you will work with single dads with kids, because a lot of organizations don't allow that either, and that's unfortunate. You touched on the fact that you're going to do a big holiday event. Are there things that you need from the community? Do you want to talk more about that holiday event that's coming up?
Absolutely. So one of the great things about working at a homeless shelter, and one of the really fun things about my job, is that I've made a lot of great contacts, and I know a lot of great people like you that are really trying to make a difference in the community. And where homelessness is concerned, homeless families, I don't need to tell you how much support we get for that. People really, it tugs at the heartstrings. And so,
especially this time of year, people are willing to give more.
Absolutely. The holiday season is when we see huge numbers of donations, support, interest, people reaching out. I wish it was like that all the rest of the year.
We need that all year long,
Yeah.
because the need doesn't go away. It doesn't stop when Christmas ends.
Exactly. And we do see kind of a big drop off in that interest. But what we see during this time really does help sustain us throughout the year, and that's very appreciated. So our holiday party, which is going to be on the 21st, we do a holiday party every year for our family shelter, and it's for the kids. We are going to have Santa there again this year. We are going to have Santa delivered on a fire truck.
Oh, wow.
So we have,
awesome.
some folks from the fire department that help us out with that.
Fabulous.
And food, drinks. We have some other people that are really helping us out. But if there is any interest from anybody listening out there, they should absolutely email us at info@stocktonshelter.org and or call us at 209-465-3612 and see if there's something that you can, if you have some interest in and you want to help us out, we can absolutely accommodate you there. But certainly, if you want to donate a Christmas present, I'm in the process of getting those right now. My board of directors is very, very helpful with all kinds of stuff, and that's what being on the board of the shelter is all about, is helping me with stuff like this too.
What ages do you need presents for?
The majority of our population, in terms of kids, is going to tend to be between about 3 years old and about 8 years old, and because of sort of the transient nature of homelessness and how difficult it can be sometimes to stick somewhere. We don't really know how many kids we're going to have or what ages those are going to be, even as soon as the 21st. Exactly. Yeah. It changes pretty rapidly. So we have a pretty good sense as of, we had 93 kids last night. We're probably going to have something along those lines. Is it the same kids? Maybe not.
It's a lot of kids.
Yeah.
It's just staggering to me to hear that number. Let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about the location of the shelter, how long it's existed, how long you've been there.
Okay. Well, the shelter got started in 1987. We are located, our administrative offices are at 411 South Harrison Street in Stockton. Some people say, well, where is that? And I go, well, have you ever been to St. Mary's? We're right next door to St. Mary's. Oh, yeah, sure, St. Mary's. St. Mary's owns a lot of the area around the shelter. We are on Caltrans land. We're right under the freeway. We're right directly under the Crosstown Freeway. And so between St. Mary's and the shelter, and Stockton Shelter for the Homeless, we have that whole property there. And then St. Mary's over the years has acquired some other property, including the lot that's across the street.
The parking lot.
Yeah, it's kind of an empty lot right now, and it is being used for parking. And I have no idea what their plans are for that lot in the future, but that's kind of where we're located. We're just adjacent or just off of downtown, and we really very much are where our clients need us to be.
Definitely.
We a lot of the social services that are available for people that are what HUD would call very low income or extremely low income. So extremely low income would be like $0 to $5,000 a year in income, and that's maybe that's a family of four.
Bigger.
Or even bigger, right? And so those folks need help. Those folks need assistance. It is not realistic to say that they're going to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and magically get out of their situation.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen without help from folks like me, folks like you, folks like the good people that are working at HSA and at WorkNet and even the Emergency Food Bank and a lot of other organizations. So it's obviously very important that we all work together.
And St. Mary's Dining Hall. And my next question to you, and we've had both Ed Figueroa and Mercedes Marino here on the show not that long ago. How does it work having both of those organizations next to each other? How much do you partner? What services do you refer to them and such?
We work very closely together. It's informal, but I call St. Mary's the shelter's best friend because of the fact that we're really serving the same group of people. St. Mary's does food and some other related services. Primarily, it's the food.
They do a lot of social services too.
Absolutely, yeah, and certainly Mercedes is key to that, and she's awesome.
Let's give her a shout out. She's amazing.
Yeah,
I work with her with the vaccine clinic.
Okay, yeah, she's amazing. And what a story. Mercedes is, and so our staff gets to work with her, and a lot of them that are working in their social services department. I work pretty closely with Edward on occasion. Obviously, our jobs keep us both very busy, but where we can partner, we do, because it's extremely important. We are actively trying to interlock our services and not overlap them.
Yes.
Because if we're overlapping our services, then we're wasting funds, valuable funds, and no organization, St. Mary's, the shelter, or any other organization will tell you they have enough resources for what they do. So it's very important that we make the most out of what we get, and we do.
That's awesome.
We absolutely do.
That's awesome. And let's say that someone has stayed at your facility X amount of nights and they are looking for more permanent housing. Do you help them with that? Do you refer them somewhere else?
We can. So, like I mentioned, our mission is emergency shelter. We are, and have been since 1987, since the very beginning, set up to be what we call the safety net for the community, a place where people can get off the street, get into a bed with a roof over that bed. And so it's a pretty simple mission. It becomes very complicated. It becomes very involved when we're talking about human beings and what can we do to help. So we stay focused on that primary mission of come on in, and we have a safe place for you. And we have such a big facility that we don't turn anybody away. We don't have to.
That's awesome.
And then once we get you in, we're going to sort of triage, as it were, or sort of prioritize what it is that someone needs. And so everybody that comes into us is going to have a sort of initial intake that's a little bit maybe limited. And then in the next couple of days, hopefully we're going to capture you and get a lot more information from you. We'll be able to sit down with you and say, are you a veteran? Are there programs that we can connect you with that help you with that? We operate a program for homeless vets that's a transitional housing program, which is different from emergency shelter. Are you HIV positive? Stockton Shelter for the Homeless operates a transitional housing program for homeless people that are HIV positive.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's called Housing Opportunities for People with AIDS. It is the only program of its kind in San Joaquin County that provides real housing, long-term housing for people with HIV.
That's amazing.
Which they have a much higher instance of homelessness in that population because of the disease. And the idea that if you can get someone who's homeless and HIV positive stably housed,
yes,
the spread of the disease is much less likely to happen.
And that just makes logical sense.
So there's
and they're going to be healthier too.
Exactly. Exactly. So there's a lot of factors at work there, and that's what that program is all about. And so very proud of that.
That's awesome.
And that's what we do. So
learning a lot today.
Yeah, good.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
I had this vision, and we've taken a tour, but you've just introduced me to a couple other things that I didn't know you guys were doing that are really important.
Awesome. And so for anybody listening, I've given Julie a tour, and I've given lots and lots of people a tour, and that's kind of my favorite thing to do when I'm explaining to people what we do at the shelter. I can talk about it all day, but to come on down, take a walk with me through our facilities, get to meet our staff, and really get a sense of what we do on the ground. I would invite anybody who's listening to email us at info@stocktonshelter.org or call us at 209-465-3612. Schedule a tour with me.
And do you have a website, Facebook page?
StocktonShelter.org is our website, and we're on Facebook as well. And there's a link to the Facebook page on our website. Yeah.
And you talked to me earlier about a newsletter. Tell us about the newsletter.
Yeah, we do a newsletter once a month. We've been doing that for years and years, and we have a pretty big distribution with that. It just kind of keeps you connected to just the different things that we have going on each month. My assistant Kim does a great job with that, and it looks great every month. We have our Christmas one coming out here in just a little while, and it's a great way for us to gather donations, which is without that we really could not do what we do. Without the support of the community, we just couldn't do what we do. That's how nonprofit organizations work. That's how nonprofit corporations, as they call them, work. And so we rely on the generosity of the community to keep our doors open and keep 100 kids housed tonight, and their moms and dads, and the single men and the single women too, and everyone that comes to us for help. So I would absolutely encourage anybody to go on our website. You can donate through our website, or just send us a check in the mail.
Is the newsletter on the website?
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So go back to what you were saying about housing people and not turning people away. Let's say someone, we'll just call him Joe, has been staying there for 20 days. Is there a limit for how many days he can stay there? Can he just day after day, the whole year long, stay there?
No, there is no limit. And yes, they can stay as long as they're showing us some kind of progress. And that is going to be different for different people. And so it's up to our case managers to work with individuals and make sure that, hey, they're doing what we need them to do. And again, it's different for different people. That might be, well, you're taking your meds every day and you're getting a little more stable emotionally, mentally. People, huge instances of mental illness in the homeless population. That's one of the big reasons why people end up homeless. And so if you come to us and you're struggling with that and you show us some progress there, hey, great. We'll work on the job part later. We'll work on, maybe some of the life skills stuff later. How do we take it one step at a time? Awesome. So that's, and it's important to... And this is one of the reasons why I like to give a tour, and you and I have talked about this. We have separate operations going on, because when you're talking about the homeless, you're talking about human beings, and we're all different, right? But it's really important in terms of focusing resources to set up a system where you're focusing on a particular population and you're focusing on another population. So our single men have a different set of needs than our single women, than our families, than our children, than our elderly, than our HIV positive population. So we have programs that are tailored to that group. Where our family shelter is concerned, as I mentioned, we tend to focus more resources on that program because of our children. And so we have case management for that group. In our men's shelter, we have case management, but it's limited. And I would love to do more with that. That's where the generosity of the public comes in, and where our funds really are important. Where we find those extra funds to maybe add a case manager for the men's shelter, that is going to create huge dividends for us in terms of the services for those guys. So we've had people... Average length of stay for a single tends to be about 3 months. For a family, it tends to be about 6 months. And we've had people that have stayed much longer. We had a single gentleman who passed away last year but he had been living at the shelter off and on for about 20 years.
Wow.
He was undocumented. He really didn't have a whole lot of prospects. He was very much struggling with addiction and some mental illness issues. But we are not in the business of judging people or denying them shelter because of whatever their background is. Maybe they've been convicted of a crime or whatever it is, or they're undocumented and addicted. That's not what we're there to do. We are there to provide somewhere for that guy to get off the street, or somewhere for that family to get off the street. Stop living in your car, or stop living in that tent next to the off ramp like we see out there.
All over, tons of them.
So we're set up to invite those folks in, and that's kind of the bottom line. And so to move someone out when they're really working with our case managers and showing them some progress, that destabilizes them completely at that point.
That would ruin everything you've done.
All of that work is now set back. So for us to have an arbitrary deadline, that's just not good business when you're talking about trying to help folks.
That's exciting to hear. Everything that you said is just amazing. Yep. So you touched on funding from the community. How much of the funding comes from the community? Do you have government assistance? How are you funded?
So about half of our income is through small donations from the public. Now that could be a check for $5. It could be a check for a much larger amount from a foundation, or something like that, or a family that knows what we're doing. And
a Rotary.
A Rotary, of course. Yeah. So then there's grants.
Shout out to Rotary Club of Stockton.
Yeah, they help us out every year, and it's always appreciated. And yeah, Julie and I are both members of Rotary Club of Stockton. Like them a lot. There's 4 clubs in Stockton. They're all great.
They're all great.
And so we do write grants. I write grants a lot. And so, for example, the Rotary grant is going to be, a few $1,000. It's usually what it ends up being. And then there could be grants that I'm writing for much larger, and that could be a few $100,000. And every little bit counts. Every little bit helps. And obviously, the larger ones are harder to come by. The smaller ones are easier to come by. But for me and for our organization, it's just kind of one piece at a time. We have a thrift store in North Stockton. That's at the Hammer Ranch Shopping Center, right next to the Hammer Ranch Post Office. If you want to support the shelter and shop at a great thrift store and get a great deal, we always have great stuff there. We just opened, well, I shouldn't say just, it's been about a year now. We opened a furniture store, which is right next door, and it focuses solely on furniture. It's the only thrift store in Stockton that focuses specifically on furniture, and there's always great stuff there. If you go on our Facebook page, you can see what's there. That's one way that folks can really help support the shelter, just by shopping there.
Can you take donations of clothing there?
Absolutely. We take donations of all kinds there, and we'll either try to sell it at the store or take it to the shelter and give it to our clients, just depending on the need. Yeah.
Awesome. Excellent.
And we also have grant programs of all kinds. We don't get any specific funding from the city of Stockton or the county of San Joaquin. There is $0 for those. I'm hoping to change that in the future, because I think that if this community really is interested in helping solve the homeless problem, hey, Stockton Shelter for the Homeless is a great place to start. We've got 400 people that we're keeping off the streets each and every night. And you can imagine.
Huge. That's a huge impact.
It is a huge impact. And you can imagine what the impact would be on the streets if our doors closed. So, I would love to see some more support from the city and the county in that sense. Not to say that they don't support us, but it's sometimes in other ways, and maybe less tangible ways. We have a lot of programs that allow us to reimburse our costs. So that was something I learned about when I first started working at the shelter, that we pay out some money to whatever it is. For example, we spend about $1,000 a month on toilet paper. When we then ask this program for the money back, they give it to us. And so
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
and so
awesome.
It doesn't cover all of our costs, but it covers a bit. And
it helps.
It absolutely helps. And so that is how we, that is a combination of all of those things is how we do business.
Awesome.
Keep our doors open. Yeah.
And how did it happen that you became the CEO?
I couldn't tell you if I thought about it for a year. It was just a very weird route that I took. I was a TV producer for many years, and really enjoyed that job, but thought, you know what, I want to get in a nonprofit. I was working locally for a very long time, and it gave me the opportunity to intersect with a lot of nonprofit folks, and I thought, you know, this is maybe where my heart lies. So I got into that.
So you sound really very passionate about it, which is awesome.
Thank you.
So that's cool.
Yeah. So anyway, one thing led to another. I started working at Goodwill, and got to know the good people over there, and I'm still good friends with the people over there.
Excellent.
And
I'm sure that's a good resource. A connection.
Absolutely. Yeah, we partner very closely with Goodwill where we can. And the opportunity came open for the CEO job at Stockton Shelter, and I thought, well, hey, I can make an impact there. And they were crazy enough to hire me, and now here I sit across from you.
All right, and I had worked with the prior CEO because through the city we had some animal vaccine clinics there. But I was excited when you came on board, and as you mentioned, we're in Rotary together. What changes do you think that you've brought to the shelter?
Well, certainly financially we were kind of struggling. It's very difficult. It's a big operation, and there's a lot of moving parts. And so that was kind of job number one, was to dial that in a little bit and make sure that we were not losing money, but we're actually able to put money in the bank.
And maximizing resources.
Absolutely, yeah. We need a reserve because, again, if we close our doors, the impact to this community will be
huge. Devastating.
Yeah, unfathomable. So that's a heavy responsibility for me, and it weighs heavily on me. And I sleep a little bit better at night knowing that, hey, we've got a little bit of reserve in the bank. One of the ways that we did that was through a partnership with Community Foundation of San Joaquin. They are an incredible organization that does lots of good for the community and provides a real focus for philanthropy in San Joaquin County. And Linda Phillip was wonderful with that organization, and now Moses Zapien, who's a great friend of mine, is now part of that organization, leading that organization. I see him absolutely taking that organization to new heights. I'm very proud.
I agree.
Yeah, so I'm very proud to be a part of that organization in terms of, we've had a fund there for a while now. One of the things that when I got to the shelter, operationally, a huge part of my job is operations. So it's everything. I do the marketing, I do the human resources, I do
you do all of that,
grant writing, I do all of that stuff. Yeah, we don't have a big staff. I'm the only executive level, director level staff at the shelter. All of our other staff, for the most part, are programming. So when I got to the shelter, part of the operational thing was our facilities are kind of run down here. I got to find some money to get this stuff fixed, and I got to address some serious issues I see here. One of which was we didn't have a front gate on the shelter, and we never had. And when you look at it and go, this place is open at night, and again, please, to all your listeners, come on down to the shelter, take a tour of the shelter, you see where we're located. And when I said we are where our clients need us to be, that tends to mean we're in a pretty bad part of town. That's just kind of how it is. And we do a very good job of keeping our clients safe and keeping our staff safe and trying to keep a safe environment. But at 3 o'clock in the morning, when you see some of the things that are going on right outside our door, it's just a tough reality of the neighborhood and a tough reality of Stockton. We need to do something to fix that. So I was able to find some funding and just get a gate built. And so at 9 o'clock at night, we close the gate. And so I used to leave the shelter, at 6 o'clock at night to go home, and I just see cars parked everywhere all over the shelter because it's people that were coming in, parking, leaving the shelter, going out into the street, doing their thing, engaging in drugs, engaging in prostitution. And when we put that gate in, and people got used to the idea that, well, at 9 o'clock, the shelter's shutting the gate, and you're not going to be able to get your car. All of a sudden, the only cars that were parked there were the ones that were staying for the night, which is the folks that we want to be there.
Yes.
And
yes, there has to be some boundaries, some rules.
And everyone is welcome at the shelter. And if those folks that are out in the tents want to come back, we do outreach at least once a month with a coalition. That was one of the things that I've been very proud of to be a part of and to have had a hand in making happen was a lot more collaborations. And so one of those was to do outreach, which means you get together as a group and you go out to the tents and you say, hey, how you doing? Good to see you again this month. Remember me from last month? Are you done? How's it going? Do you feel like maybe you want to come inside this time? You know, usually the answer is no. Usually the answer is, hey, I'm not ready yet. Because if you've ever dealt with anybody who's struggling with an addiction or something similar, you know that until they're ready, they're just not going to do it, or they're not going to be successful if they try.
And a piece of that puzzle with the people that are outside that I've been more involved with is often they have dogs, a good percentage of them. And so you and I have talked about working on a solution, and hopefully sometime in the future that can happen. But unfortunately right now, none of the facilities in our community allow people that have pets to have their pets there.
And there's a reason for that, as we've discussed, and it's a tragedy because you're right. That is one of the things, excuse me, that stops people from accessing shelter is the fact that, you know, in the case of Stockton Shelter for the Homeless, and I mentioned that my job tends to be very operational, meaning I'm worried about our facilities all the time. I
understand, totally.
When we have 400 people and 100 kids, we cannot have each person with their own dog, and that
definitely not.
That tends to be one of two breeds, which you're probably aware of. It's either Chihuahuas or pit bulls. Yeah, and
difficult breeds to handle.
They can be, you know, and for different reasons. And that's not to say we haven't had animals. Once in a while they'll come in. Certainly service animals. There's a legal requirement there, but we get, you know, dogs that wander into the campus all the time. We really, because of the way our campus is set up, it's very difficult for us to control that sort of thing. We have lots and lots of cats that live at the campus, and you know, try to get help where we can as far as that goes. But it's also very difficult to keep those. You know, you can't stop a cat from going anywhere it wants to. So, yeah, that is something that I would love a viable solution to. If we could create 400 kennels and a system for management.
20 maybe.
Well, maybe 20, yeah, or whatever it takes. 100? I mean, when we're talking about that many clients, that's my worry is, will we max out? Who's going to handle the responsibility when the client abandons their animal? They decide, you know what, I'm tired of being here at the shelters. Too many rules. Not that we have any too many rules. We don't have a whole bunch. It's come on in and be cool and you'll be fine. But you know, when all of those concerns are something I have to think about, how much is insurance going to go up, you know, and all of that stuff. It's frustrating for someone like me to go, I see a problem here. I see that this is stopping people from coming inside, and we can do some real good here. But in terms of the entire operation, these challenges are outweighing the desire to help or the desire to solve this problem. It can be very frustrating, and you know, you come across that all the time. As you know, meaning someone in my position.
I don't know how you do your job that you do.
I hear that a lot. I hear that a surprising amount. It's
that
tough,
too,
but it's also rewarding.
So different.
Yeah. I know you. I don't know that I could do yours either. So everybody has their talents and their the things they're good at.
So we talked about the animal issue as a potential future thing to try. What other future plans do you have?
So we have had some funds allocated through the Community Development Block Grant. I've been working on this project for a few years now. It's a big project, and it's something that you can't really do outside of the summer months, and that is to get our parking lot repaved. We need to add some drainage. It's been many years since our parking lot has been repaved. If your listeners and your viewers decide to come on down to the shelter and take that tour with me, like I keep inviting them to do, you get a sense of what it looks like down there, especially when it rains. We get huge puddles of water. We have a lot of clients that are just mud. It's insane. Yeah, and we have a lot of clients that are disabled. They're walking in and out of the shelter. Most of our clients don't have a vehicle of any kind. It's a big hazard. It's a big problem, and I want to get that fixed. So in terms of a facilities project, that is something that I'm very interested in for the future. We have a vehicle. It's a box truck, and that thing is on its last legs. It was donated by Junior League and through a very generous donation. And
part of Junior League.
And you're part of Junior League. Yeah, they do great work in the community. They have helped the shelter out immensely over the years. And it's the donation of this vehicle happened a while ago, and the truck just isn't going to make it anymore. So we're keeping it in good repair and moving it forward. But I'm really looking for a source, somebody who's willing to help us out with that, because that truck is really key to our operation, because we do accept donations from the public, and we will do pickups depending on availability, and we do pick up food all the time, and there's lots of other things that we do with that truck. And I've got a guy who's out in the public with that truck half the time, picking stuff up for us or dropping stuff off for us. So that's something that I'm very interested in. I have been involved with the homeless task force for a long time now, and that is sort of drawing down, and it is I think maybe the most progress that I've seen, and certainly for people like, say, Bill Mendelson, who has been at this job, his job in homeless services in this area for a very long time. He has told me that he felt like this was by far the best effort that he's seen in terms of a collaboration and in terms of really moving the ball forward and gaining traction for help, assistance, resources for homeless services, and a recognition that, hey, this isn't just going to go away on its own. And it's not a simple, it's a, if you want to have less homeless people, you need to have more homes. And that's a simple equation with a very complicated solution.
Very complicated.
Right? The other side of that equal sign goes on and on. Yeah.
We need funding for that. And to me, what's been exciting about being on the homeless task force is not just that we've made some progress, but to see all of the different organizations coming together, putting aside any differences and working together to try and find real solutions. Yeah,
absolutely. There have been so many partnerships that have come out of that.
My vaccine
effort.
clinic has come out of that.
Exactly. Yeah. And so many others. And it's really bringing a lot of key players to the table, because there are a lot of different agendas where it comes to dealing with the problem of homelessness in our county, and not to say that that's a bad thing, but people have their focuses. Law enforcement has a focus. Social services has a focus. Government has a focus. Citizens like you that are interested in a particular topic like animals have a focus. People that are running homeless services, nonprofit organizations, they have a focus, and that's okay. So bringing all of those foci, those focuses together, and having a conversation each month that's being led by Kathy Miller and some really,
she's done a great job.
Oh yeah, immense, incredible. These people have really moved the ball forward, and it's been great to be a part of. It really has.
I'm kind of sad that it's ending this year, and I know that we have things that are put in place.
We're going to keep going. There's absolutely no doubt. It was set up that way from the beginning, too. We're not going to lose any momentum. It's a task force. It needs to draw it down. But what replaces that momentum? And it's going to happen. Yeah, I'm very excited about
that part. I'm excited about.
Yeah. And, they're talking about a coordinator of homeless services, and that individual, whoever that is going to, I think, in a large part, be tasked with, in general, keeping that momentum going. I mean, that's going to be job number one for that person. Is we have a bunch of momentum here. We have a framework here.
We have a framework. We have Ready to Work, John Mendelson.
That's right.
And there's funding now to help people that have a repeat offenders in the system to hopefully get out of that cycle. So that's exciting, and hopefully there'll be more coming from that.
Huge collaboration coming out of the homeless task force, and I talk about different agendas, law enforcement, but also social services. Well, John has been key to this effort. It has been immense, and they bring him on and connect him in a way to that law enforcement solution, or should I say, the sort of solving the problem from that angle.
Yes. Which is a huge part of homelessness, also.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so they're not serving everybody. They're serving a particular segment of the population, but like I mentioned earlier, that's how you get it done. You go, let's tailor a program that focuses on a group, and
then this group and this group,
Yeah.
because no one solution is going to work for everyone.
right, yeah, and let another group handle the solution for another population. The shelter's not really set up that way. We have we kind of take everybody in at once, but it's emergency shelter, and so a big benefit to us is when there are organizations like Ready to Work, like Gospel Center Rescue Mission that focuses more on particular populations, like the Women's Center and Haven of Peace. We can say, hey, here are some services for others. We can be the place where, most people come to us first, and then when there are other really strong organizations that we have really strong partnerships with, my staff can go to them and say, hey, I've got somebody who's really going to get help by your program. Can we talk? Can we bring this person in? And that is very much my hope with Ready to Work, and as they get off the ground next year. And with the other organizations, it has been an ongoing effort and a pleasure.
Well, and it's exciting. And earlier we talked about, we don't want different organizations to duplicate services. It doesn't make sense for two organizations to have a huge financial investment in one area, let's say drug addiction or alcohol addiction. But if you have that partnership where you say, I have this client who needs your services, can we find a spot for them? Then that works. That's magnificent.
Yeah. Ideally, really, if you can provide every service under one roof in one organization, hey,
That would be awesome.
it's easier to do for the organization. It's probably more efficient. But the reality is the resources aren't there. When our organization was set up in 1987 just to house as many people as possible, that's how we've moved forward. And so that means that the resources are not necessarily there for us to add a whole bunch of programs, at least not now. But that's the hope for the future, is that we can do some real good and maybe start branching out into some things that, hey, you know what, take the pressure off of our organization and take the pressure off of the emergency shelter component of our organization, which frankly is at capacity or beyond every single night.
Well, and as you mentioned early on, homelessness is growing, and we just had, our point in time count at the start of the year, and I'm sure the numbers are higher since then. And it's just unfortunate that nationwide homelessness is becoming more of an issue. And at least in our area, there's just not a lot of affordable housing. I mean, we work on that, but
there are more homeless people in the state of California than any other state in the union. There are more homeless people in the city of Los Angeles than in the state of Utah.
Wow.
There are some stark figures that we are locally dealing with. And when I say local, that's Stockton and San Joaquin County, but it's also the Bay Area region and the entire state. When we have a less than 1% vacancy rate in Stockton for rentals of any kind, housing of any kind,
which is amazing. I mean, that there's just no housing
there, and so it's good from a certain perspective, right? But it's when you're looking at that single mom who has 3 kids and is living at Stockton Shelter for the Homeless and cannot afford a home of her own without a housing voucher, what they used to call Section 8, and every rental listing you see says no Section 8, no Section 8, no Section 8. They aren't renting to those people. They aren't renting to our clients.
Well, and they're concerned too, and that's another thing, I'm glad you brought that up, that came out of the Homeless Task Force, is the recommendation to entice or encourage landlords to rent to this population. And the city of Stockton designated, I believe it's $50,000, so that if there is damage done to properties and things of that nature from renting to clients that might have some prior crimes, prior issues with not paying rent on time and such, that they'll be compensated.
Yeah, and that effort came out of the Homeless Task Force, but also, sort of a brainstorming session that was led by Mayor Tubbs, with not just, guys like me and my colleagues, but also, local real estate developers and people that really have expertise in that field. So the task force has been a model for collaboration that has been replicated in other places, and that's been exciting. And so $50,000, I know it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but when we looked at the numbers, we said that's probably what will do the trick, at least for now.
And it's doable, and it's a starting place.
Doable, and it's not asking too much of the public or too much of the city council or too much of the city of Stockton, and it should have some real impact. I'm hopeful that it will.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Any final closing statements that you'd like to add? Anything you want to touch on that we didn't?
I don't think so. I mean, it's been a great talk, and I appreciate you letting me run on and on like I do. But
again, you're passionate about it, which is what's exciting, and I think that helps you do what you do on a daily basis, because I know that there's challenges to what you do all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. But I absolutely got into this work to solve challenges, to face challenges, and try to be the person creating solutions. And it's rewarding, it's cool.
Making a big difference.
Yeah, getting up every day and going, all right, I'm proud of what I do.
That's awesome.
And, so if I want to leave anybody with anything, it is come on down to the shelter, see what we do. Check us out on StocktonShelter.org and get in contact with me. And see what we do.
How do they do that again? They
do it by going to StocktonShelter.org, emailing us at info@StocktonShelter.org, or calling us at 209-465-3612. And come take a tour with me and see what it is that you want to do to help. Because if your interest is in homeless vets or the HIV population or kids, that's always a big one. The elderly. Domestic violence, people running from domestic violence. We serve so many different people, and everyone has their own story. And we can put you in contact with someone who you can help directly.
So they can come and volunteer.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
We love donations. That helps us do what we do, but we also need just the help of the community. If you want to just come on down and help us pull some weeds, we have a big campus, and it's hard to stay on top of it, and we don't focus any money on a landscaping surface or anything like that. We ask our clients to help out, and we ask the public to help out. And
you should look for a master gardener. I don't know if you've reached out to that program, but a lot of nonprofits utilize that also to help do what you just mentioned.
We had a gentleman who was at the shelter for years as a master gardener through that program. His name was Harry Osell. Just a wonderful guy. He sadly passed away, and I have not. I did kind of reach out to that group, but and it unfortunately didn't really go anywhere. But if there's anybody listening that is interested in something like that, I would very much love that, because it's Harry. Our facilities have certainly suffered without Harry there, and so I'd love to see that resume.
And then, separate from financial donations, is there a list of a top 5 or 7 items that you're really in need of that people can donate?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to StocktonShelter.org and you click on the donate page, it's at the top of the page, you're going to then be taken to that page which has our shelter wish list. And so there's a separate link for the wish list. It's a downloadable PDF, and you can just check it out. It's a long list of items, and it's kind of broken up into 2 sides. One side is the smaller stuff, which we need every day and which we buy every day for our clients. Toilet paper, toothbrushes, toothpaste, feminine hygiene products is a big one that people don't think about, but we have lots of women that need it. Diapers, formula, even stuff like pack and plays, if you know what that is, and different things like that we give to our clients. And then we have larger items on the other side, like that new truck I was talking about, and like some of the other facilities projects that a lot of, for example, churches will get involved with. They might have a contractor who is part of their congregation, and he'll come and talk to us about, here's the project, and I've got some people to get it done, and we just need you guys to get some paint donated or whatever it is. We work very closely with groups like that to really get that done. We've had a lot of success with that.
Awesome. Well, yeah. I really appreciate you coming out today. It's been an amazing discussion. I've learned a lot. Your organization is now just more awesome in my eyes.
I appreciate that.
And I hope that we've really highlighted all the amazing work that you're doing and how much you're needed in our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.